For those of you who were able to watch the service or the message last week, I was referencing the fact that I was marking 25 years of being a minister, going all the way back to September of 1995. And I was reflecting during the week on how 25 years could be translated into numbers. For example, I deliver on average about 50 sermons a year. That adds up to 1,250 sermons over 25 years. That's a lot of preaching. That's a lot of bad jokes. On average, I would do about 12 weddings a year, which in 25 years means that I have married over 300 couples. But the number that really stuck with me was funerals. In 25 years of ministry, I have presided at around 600 funerals. Do you know what that means? I've listened to 600 eulogies. Probably more than that when you think that often there's more than one eulogy per service. A eulogy, of course, is a spoken tribute to someone who has passed away, usually offered by a family member or a close friend. It's a speech intended to capture the essence of someone's life, or basically to celebrate their life. And they're all so different. I've listened to long eulogies. I think 45 minutes was the longest one I've listened to. I've listened to short eulogies. I remember one service, a guy came up and he had a glass of something in his hand, and he lifted the glass and he said, "Cheers to you, buddy," and turned around and he sat back down again. I've listened to eulogies that have reduced those gathered to tears, but I've also listened to eulogies that have generated so much laughter it's made the church or the funeral home feel like a comedy club. I've heard eulogies that clearly took hours to prepare, and others that were just done off the cuff. Many, if not most, I've long since forgotten over the years, but a few I know I never will. I'll never forget the man who lost his sister and wanted the eulogy to be very personal. So instead of facing those that were gathered there in the church, he turned around, he faced the casket, and spoke directly to her, telling her what she had meant to him. Or the eulogy that was done partly in Klingon, because the man who passed away was a huge Star Trek fan. I had no idea what he said. Nobody did. But it was kind of impressive to hear that spoken. There was the hockey team that stood shoulder to shoulder, and in a display of unbelievable vulnerability and courage, shared memories of their young teammate who'd lost his life in an accident. But the one that truly stands out for me that I know I'll never forget was for someone who was homeless and who died on the streets here in Barrie. This would have been 5 or 6 years ago, if not more. He had no immediate family, so the funeral was arranged by a distant cousin. I arrived at the funeral home to officiate at the service, not knowing if just myself and the cousin would be the only people there. I prepared only the simplest of services, a couple of prayers and a couple of readings. But then life, as it often does, has a way of surprising me. As the time drew near for the service to begin, the chapel doors began to open and people began to file in, and the chapel started to fill up. Just about every single person, like that man, was homeless, living on the streets of Barrie. They found whatever way they could to get from downtown to the funeral home, most of them walking miles to get there. So after saying a few opening words and sharing a poem and a reading, I decided to ask if anyone wanted to say anything. No one moved. Finally, a guy at the back stood up. He had a guitar with him. My guess is he always had a guitar with him. Came to the front, sat down on a stool. You could tell that this man had lived a hard life, a life of struggle. And there he sat. Finally, he said that he wasn't very good with words, but he wanted to pay tribute to his friend, who he called Little John. With that, he started to play, and he started to sing the song, Blowing in the Wind. He had a beautiful voice. It took but a few seconds for others to join in, and within moments, the chapel was filled with the sounds of voices raised in song, a moving tribute to someone who shared their life and who shared their unique experience. When he was finished, a beautiful peace seemed to settle over the chapel. The eulogy wasn't words, but as we all know, often music can say far more than words can anyway. The reason I'm sharing this today is not because I want to talk about death. I don't. I actually want to talk about life. And I will talk about life. But first, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever given any thought to what someone might say about you in your eulogy? If that's a question that makes you squirm, I apologize, but I hope it makes you think more than it makes you squirm. What do you think someone would say about you, about your life, about the legacy that you're leaving behind? That's not a question about death. That's definitely a question about life. The writer Gary Vaynerchuk once said, "Please think about your legacy because you are writing it every day." And we are, aren't we? What would people say about you? And if you could hear your eulogy today, what, if anything, about your life would you change? A man named Alfred one day got out of bed, went to get a morning paper, opened it up, and lo and behold, he read his very own obituary in the paper. The heading over his obituary read, "Merchant of Death is dead." Alfred was an engineer and an inventor. And although he invented many good things, he was most known for inventing dynamite. His goal in inventing dynamite was a very good and noble one. He saw it as something that could blow through rocks to create roads or to create canals. But of course, it doesn't take long for those who were less scrupulous than Alfred to realize its potential as a weapon of war. So there poor Alfred sat in his kitchen, reading his own obituary, his written eulogy, being called the Merchant of Death. Now, Alfred's brother Ludwig had died the previous week, so Alfred concluded that the paper must have assumed that it was Alfred who had died. Anyway, as the story goes, Alfred was so upset by the way he was going to be remembered, he decided to do something about it. He didn't want to be known as the Merchant of Death. So he put all the money that he'd made from dynamite into a series of prizes that could be given to those working for peace and the furtherment of good societal values. Alfred's full name was Alfred Nobel, and the Nobel Peace Prizes are still given out to those people who are striving to make the world a better place. The Merchant of Death would become known as the Father of Peace. Why? Because he got a sneak peek at his eulogy. Let me explain where I'm going with this. What I've learned in listening to 600 eulogies is something about life that I think is valuable and important to remember, and that we can all carry forward as we begin a new season here at Northwest, or a new season wherever you are watching from. And it is this: when people look back on someone's life and celebrate that life, they tend to do it by reflecting on the moments of someone's life that touched them personally and left a lasting imprint. Let me explain. Some eulogies are simply biographical. So-and-so was born in 1940, they went to this school in Toronto. In 1961, they were married, and then they started working here, and then their first child was born in 1964, and so on and so on. A series of events like the unrolling of a carpet, showing all the milestones that they passed in their life. But a lot of eulogies aren't like that. In fact, I would say the best eulogies aren't like that. Instead, I found the most engaging, interesting, moving, and memorable eulogies capture someone's life by sharing its simple but profound moments. And often it begins with the words, "I'll never forget. I'll never forget when Grandpa went on the roller coaster at Canada's Wonderland with me and held my hand so tightly I thought it was going to fall off. I'll never forget when Grandma pushed me so hard on a swing, she let out a little gas and she couldn't stop giggling." That was actually a memory that someone shared in a eulogy that I heard. I'll never forget when Dad took a day off work and took me fishing, and we caught 10 fish, and he told me that we'd set a world's record. This is where people glean value in life, in its simplest moments, its simplest stories. Rose Kennedy, the matriarch of the Kennedy clan, once remarked, "Life isn't a matter of milestones, but of moments. When a moment touches us, it never goes away. It becomes a memory that in time can actually shape our own lives." Let me give you another example. I've told this story a handful of times in the past because it really made an impression on me. So I know folks listening from Northwest have heard this before, but I invite you to listen to it again. It's a great story. Years ago, when I was at my first church, I had a call from the funeral home asking me if I would preside at a service for a woman who'd passed away. They didn't have a minister, but they did have a United Church background, so I said that I would do it. The woman only had one son, so I contacted him and introduced myself, and then I asked him, given that I didn't know his mom, would he be willing to say a few words in the service to remember her life? He was reluctant. He said he didn't know what he would say. So I said, well, tell me about her. And he said, well, she was very quiet and shy, and there's not much. She was just a regular mom. First of all, I don't know about you, but I don't know too many regular moms that are out there. I think all moms are pretty special. So I asked him, was there a moment or an experience that would share something about her? And this is what he told me. He said that when he was growing up, every Friday, when he would come home from school, his mom would make him a bowl of vanilla pudding. He liked vanilla pudding, but he didn't like it every single week. But he never said anything. Finally, one Friday, he came home and he hadn't had a very good day, and there was a bowl of vanilla pudding. And he kind of snapped. "Oh, Mom," he said, "not vanilla pudding again." He said his mom didn't say anything. The next Friday when she came home, there was a bowl of vanilla pudding waiting for him again. But this time, she'd taken Smarties and she made a smiley face in the pudding. He said every Friday after that, until he graduated and left home, he would find a bowl of vanilla pudding with a face in it, sometimes made out of Smarties or raisins or chocolate chips, but always a face in it. The story didn't end there. He then went on to say that recently his daughter had gone to school for the first time. She was nervous on her first day, so he wanted to do something special for her to brighten her spirits when she got home. When she got home at the end of the first day, there was waiting for her, you guessed it, a bowl of vanilla pudding with a face in it made out of Smarties. Life isn't a matter of milestones. It's a matter of moments. And isn't that so true? And that, in essence, is exactly what the passage is all about that I read from the book of James today. Although the passage is only a handful of lines, it really makes three important points. It begins with a gentle warning about living too much with our aspirations or assumptions for the future. Come now, you say today or tomorrow you will go to the town and do business and make money, yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. Secondly, he suggests that we focus instead on where we are right now. He says, you must ask yourself instead, what am I doing to make the most of today? And thirdly, just in case you didn't get the message, he reminds us all that we don't have forever. As he says rather poetically, you are a mist that appears for a while and then vanishes. You ever thought of yourself that way, as a mist? It's kind of humbling, isn't it? But it also brings to life a sense of urgency. The point in all of this, again, as we start this new season together, is that we all know that we're heading into a season unlike any we've experienced in our lifetimes. I've said it over and over, and I'm probably going to say it over and over again over the next little while. But there is so much uncertainty ahead, so much that we don't know. Will the schools stay open? Will there be a second wave? What will Halloween be like? Some people are even suggesting we do our Christmas shopping now, just in case the stores are closed later. The point is, Like that passage says, we don't know what tomorrow will bring. And while planning is always smart, it's easy to get ahead of ourselves and live in those assumptions and those aspirations and miss out on what today can bring us. Maybe we need to heed the call of James, who invites us back again into the primacy of moments. Because again, as I've learned from sitting through 600 eulogies, is that we are remembered generally for the moments that we embrace, the laughter on roller coasters, the fish we catch with our kids, the faces we put in the pudding. Moments, sacred moments that etch themselves into the memories of our loved ones like footprints on the sand, that shape and define the legacy that we are living forward every day. Or as Emily Dickinson put it, forever is composed of nows. So if I put all these ideas together, I've come up with a phrase that I want to invite you to carry with you into this coming fall and this coming season. It simply goes like this: make the most of missed opportunities. And missed, of course, I'm spelling M-I-S-T, as in your life is missed. That's here for a time, so make the most of it. And to make this really simple today, I'm going to very quickly turn that word missed into an acronym. I love my acronyms. M stands for moments. Moments make memories. Remember, when a moment touches someone personally, you make a lasting memory. So make those moments count. I shared this on Facebook, but a couple weeks ago, I was getting my daily coffee at McDonald's, and I got to the window to pay, and the woman serving said, "You don't have to pay because the person in front of you paid for you," and she said, "Tell him to have a good day." I've been around Barrie for a few years. I've gotten to know a few people, so I figured it must be somebody who knew who I was. So I peered ahead, and I definitely didn't know who that person was. It was just a random act of kindness. It was someone who chose to turn a moment into a memory, because I'll never forget that gesture that was made that day. It set me off to a wonderful day. One day, when someone stands in front of your family and friends to celebrate your life, they're going to share the moments that capture the essence of who you are, the moments that for them became cherished memories, and that in turn brought color and shape to their lives. So make those moments as good as you can. I in MIST stands for invest. Are your RRSPs the greatest investment that you have made in your life? You may think they are right now, but in listening to 600 eulogies, I have never heard someone say, "I was always so impressed with how that person handled their finances." The greatest investment you will make in your life is in people, others. So invest well and invest generously. The S stands for share what you have. With all due respect to Martin Luther, if we define our faith simply by what we believe, our faith is but a shell of what it could be. Beliefs to me are very important, but not as an end in themselves, but rather as a means to an end. They should motivate us to action. Again, as James wrote, "What good are your beliefs if you see someone who is nothing and simply share a few platitudes and go on your way?" But when we can, we are always called to share what we have. Do you know what the single most common phrase is that I hear spoken at eulogies? He or she would give the shirt off their back. I hear that over and over again when people are celebrating the memory of their loved ones. What does that tell you? It tells me that what we value the most in others is their willingness to share what they have, their generosity. A great life is one that is open and generous and kind. And finally, the T in mist stands for time. When James referred to life as a mist that vanishes, he was referring to time. Time is a funny thing because it is both our master and our servant. We are all ultimately at its mercy. The sun will rise and set every day. The weeks will turn into months and turn into years and will tick along its relentless march into the future. In that way, it is our master, setting our boundaries and moving us forward whether we want it to or not. We can't stop time. We can't reverse time. We can't change time. But it's also very much our servant. For every day, it generously holds its hands out and it says, here is a gift of 24 hours just for you. A gift to do with as you wish. And so we use it doing what? Working, watching TV, laughing with friends, sitting quietly reading a book, taking a walk, playing golf, making your favorite food, listening to music, doing something for someone else, talking on the phone, walking your dog. Who knows? It's your gift. You get to decide what to do with it. And if this 24 hours isn't great, hang in there. Because God willing, there's another gift of 24 hours coming your way tomorrow. I really believe that we ultimately decide if time will be our master or our servant. We can see it simply as a force of nature beyond our control, making us a little grayer, a little achier, a little older each day as it drags us forward. Or we can see it as a series of gifts, a daily offering from the hands of the divine, inviting us to experience something new, engage with life around you, enjoy the people and places that mean something to you, to make the moments that will become the memories that will one day shape your legacy. Time is your greatest gift. So this year, even with all that's going to go on, may you make the most of your missed opportunities. Moments. Make the most of them because you are making memories. Invest. The people in your life are your greatest asset. Share. You will be remembered for what you did for others. And time. It is your gift at your service. Make the most of it. Enjoy it. Well, I got to end on a high note here, folks. A woman in the U.S., whose first name was Kay, lived a wonderful life. She was adored by her family and her friends alike. And she was known for making the best fudge ever. A family event wasn't a family event without Kay's fudge. It was rumored that some people would come to the event just to get the fudge. It was that good. And whenever someone would ask her for the recipe, she would always say, no, no, no. That recipe is going with me to my grave. After a long and happy life, she passed away. A week later, there was a service held for her at the cemetery. Family and friends gathered to pay tribute to her amazing life. And this is what they saw on the gravestone. You gotta love it. Friends, life is a gift. Even in this strange time, life is a gift. So enjoy it. Make your moments count, for every day you are writing your legacy. Amen.